Today's video is brought to you by Simply Safe.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Beautiful lattice panels. So we'll be learning here together, but I built one beforehand to kind of see how it would work. I'm trying to figure out a way to clean up underneath the deck. I know a lot of you guys were saying that deck has had it, tear it out and build another one. That's easy for you to say and hard for me to do. I'm going to try to make do with what we have here. So my idea was to build these lattice panels, and I think they look kind of nice. So we'll build one together here, and then Mrs. W can plant some flowers along here, and we'll get that curb appeal everyone's looking for, right? So let's jump into it. I'll show you the materials and how I went about doing it. May not be the best way, but we might learn something together. So let's get started. And here to the north is where we'll put the next one. So as you can see, it is couldn't be worse, right? All uneven. The posts are different thicknesses, the way they stick out. I mean, it's really difficult to work with. Cinder blocks, come on, broken ones at that. Isn't that nice? This here is the lattice that I'm using. If you have something, usually like a decks or stairways, the things that you want to kind of cover up, or if you just want to have some semi-privacy, maybe you like have a hot tub where you don't want it to be completely fenced in, but you want to see in, but make it a little more difficult for people to see. And this is a great method. It basically cuts your vision by 50%, right? What you can see, and just hems things in a little bit. Be careful when you're buying this stuff. There's two grades of this. There's some really thin stuff that's really flimsy and it won't hold up, and it actually looks really cheap. If you could spend a little bit more and get the thicker stuff, it actually has got some structure and it looks nice. So what we're going to be, you have to build a frame for these. So what I'm using is I've got these really beautiful clear cedar 2x4s that I'm ripping in half into 1x. And then once those are ripped in half, they look like this here. And then I take it and take a 3/4 by 3/4 notch out of it on the table saw, and we get this action right here. Why? Well, I'll tell you here. Because when you're doing your lattice, now you have, you see how that fits in there nicely like that? It will go down in there, it sits flush, and then you can put that right up to what you're doing. When working on these old remodels, you got to be flexible, but we want consistency as much as possible. I just can't stand asymmetry and not doing things square. Even if the room is crooked, I can't build crooked. I'll still make it straight. So we'll start right there, and this will give us our starting point. And we'll do the same thing over here. And then we'll simply measure between the two marks. .82. We'll cut this to length, and then we'll rip it in half on the table saw. Square that edge up there. Got a little bit of crack, we'll cut that out. I think we got enough to spare. We got to be at 82. This is my last one. I'm gonna have to get some more. Oh yeah, we got plenty to work with. When you make your marks, traditionally, it's really interesting. If you go back and look at old carpentry books, like from the 16th, 17th century, you can find legends for all of the marks and what they mean. It's not so important today because we don't do timber framing, but back then every joint was custom, and it had to go exactly back where it was originally intended. So they had a whole series of marks for that. But for us today, when you mark in a board, you mark a V like that. And why the V? Because you know exactly where your measurement falls. If you just do a line, is the measurement here or is it here? So always the V. And then on the leg of the V that you want to cut, you put a cross through it. So when the carpenter sees that, he knows that this is my mark right there, and I cut on this side of it. Because the blade has thickness, right? So you have to account for that thickness. If you were to split that down the middle, your cut would be short. With that cedar 2x4 cut to length, we need to rip it in half. So these are coming out to 3 1/4, so that would be 1 5/8 to the center. Eat your heart out, metric system users. This is one of those rare exceptions where we actually do cut on the center of the line because we want these to be exactly the same. So we'll split that curve right down the middle. That hateful sun's coming out. As a video maker, I've learned to hate the direct sunlight. These legs will match up with the other ones, so they're the same. 13 and a 16th strong. Every time I do a carpentry video, you guys are always accusing me of shilling for DeWalt. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one to turn down a good shill, but I don't have a sponsorship with DeWalt. I did one video for them, what was it, like 6 years ago? And when they contacted me when they were coming out with the new FlexVolt line, and they said, hey, we got this new line of tools, would you like to try one out? And I said, sure. They said, well, tell us what you want. And so I went to their catalog and I ordered like one of everything. I found out later that some of the other creators that were doing promo videos for them just asked for one thing, but I always live by the you have not because you ask not. So they said it in those, including those big yellow toolboxes. So the reason why you see DeWalt tools in videos a lot is I do like them. I've used them, and my dad used them in construction for way before YouTube. But it's that they just very generously sent everything I asked for. So what am I going to do? Throw them away? I'm going to use them, of course. Wouldn't you? Simply Safe is an incredibly effective and reliable home security system that will make your home safe. If you were to ask me my favorite thing about the Simply Safe system, it is having someone keeping an eye on the place when I'm away from home. Living in a rural area, if we were to have a fire or to leave with the door open, we would have no idea. We have no neighbors to rely upon to kind of keep an eye on things. So having that ability to check in on my phone, make sure that the dogs are okay, knowing that all the doors and windows are locked, gives me a peace of mind. The Simply Safe system is more than just calling the police if you have a break-in or the fire department if you have a fire in the house. I use it in kind of untraditional ways. You guys know I put water in the adventure van and we live in a cold area, and sometimes I worry that the furnace might conk out and those lines would freeze overnight, costing me thousands of dollars. I simply place a Simply Safe monitor right near the water tank, and I get a notification on my phone if the temperature drops below a certain level, and I can intervene and make sure that we don't get a frozen van. If you're interested in getting your own security system, I invite you to go to simplysafe.com/Wranglerstar. No hidden fees, fair pricing, and installation you can simply do yourself, and the peace of mind that comes with 24-hour monitoring. With our frame pieces cut, now we need to do this little detail here. So it's basically a 3/4 by 3/4. So how I do these is I'll set my, you set your blade. It's quite simple actually. You just set your blade depth to 3/4 of an inch. With your depth set, then we'll just take that fence and we'll just match whatever that setting was. So just a hair over 3/4. You might have to take your chisel and just clean up a little bit of edge right there, but it doesn't usually amount to much. Of all my chisels, this is my most favorite one. It's an original Stanley 750 with the original handle and a 3/4 inch. It's the finest steel, it's the best chisel. The new ones just can't compare. I don't know what it is, it's just something about it. This is the, oh, that's about as good as it gets right there. I didn't quite get that lined up there, but no matter. I never take it for granted. I remember when I was younger, for a long time, I worked for excavating companies, had my own equipment for a while, and I remember those days in the wintertime in the Pacific Northwest. The winters are cold. They're not as cold as you guys up in Minnesota and the East Coast, but they're so wet. Because of the rain, you get that temperature that's like 37, 38 degrees and windy and high humidity and raining. I remember sitting after working, all morning, you get all wet. You go and stop for lunch and you get in that warm cab and have your lunch, with the heater on. And just the idea of getting back in that wet rain gear and back in those dirty trenches and wet sopping gloves, it just makes me cringe. Think about it. I'll tell you, if you do that type of work, my hat's off. I don't miss it. I did it for a long time, and I get it, and it's rough. I've had a lot of bad jobs. If you guys had bad jobs, one of the worst, if you ask me what the worst was, my granddad retired from Ford. He was a transmission mechanic, and he's a hardworking guy. About went crazy sitting at home. He didn't last very long before he went back to work. And for a friend of his who had a porta potty business, and he worked as a mechanic. They had a fleet of trucks, so he would work on their trucks and keep them going. And he got me a summer job, and my job was cleaning those porta potties when they came back in the yard, and the graffiti and that was and I didn't think it was that bad at the time. Now that I look back on it, I don't know that I'd want to do that again. Yeah, when you're working for another man, if you show up and you're not ready to work, you're going to get a talking to. So that's why I tell you now, so you can avoid that. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're ready to work. Gloves, ear protection, eye protection, everything ready to go. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep, same drill. You ready? Great, thank you, Jack. This cordless nailer is a tool that I actually bought myself, and I've had a lot of nailers. I used to have the Senko framing nailers and finish nailers and pin nailers that used a compressor. But after going cordless, you couldn't get me to go back to one of those old things, dragging that cord around. No way. These new ones are so good. I'm just switching to a smaller nail here to secure that lattice to the frame. Baby girl, come and see Papa. Oh, I'm walking. Okay.
How's it going?
It's going great.
You look beautiful.
Yeah, you're getting there.
Are
you excited?
I got a text from Zoe. I am told an offer just came in on the property you're coming to see tomorrow.
What is going on over here?
I'm coming with water.
Are you? Can you say hello to everyone? If you don't say hello to everyone, I'm going to put a pot on your head.
Hello, everyone.
Would you like to help?
I come.
Of course. Well, let's do it then.
I dreamed a dream of you and me. I dreamed that we were young, and in that dream we sailed the sea to a land we loved. What a wonderful scene. There was such a nice breeze. All the memories were free, and the birds, they were singing for us.